This material is a practical guide to uncovering the signs of invisible bankruptcy, a drama that afflicts many, especially in the United States, where social pressure for a high standard of living can lead to disastrous financial decisions. Through real stories, in-depth analyses, and proven strategies, we will explore the causes of financial ruin and, more importantly, the paths to recovery and the building of a solid financial future. Prepare for a learning journey that can transform your life and protect you from the traps of appearances. It was a rainy, monotonous Tuesday in Seattle when Sarah, a 39-year-old marketing manager, opened her email inbox and felt her stomach drop. There it was, implacable, an email from Bank of America with the chilling subject line, "Insufficient funds notice," such as rent and food, while simultaneously maintaining superfluous expenses to sustain an image of success that no longer corresponded in any way to her painful reality. Denial often is the first and most dangerous symptom of invisible bankruptcy. She avoided looking at her bank statements with the same aversion one avoids a monster in the closet. Postponed phone calls from bill collectors by inventing flimsy and inconsistent excuses, and concocted increasingly elaborate stories for friends and family about her financial situation, all to avoid revealing the humiliating truth. This behavior is alarmingly common among individuals living beyond their means, trapped in a web of self-deception and fear. Pride, fear of social judgment, and the pressure to maintain a certain status prevent many from acknowledging the problem and, crucially, seeking help before it's too late. The solution for Sarah, and for many in the same desperate situation, begins with a fundamental and courageous step: accepting financial reality. This means sitting down at the table, opening all accounts, totaling debts in a detailed spreadsheet, and confronting expenses without excuses, without procrastination, without self-deception. It's a painful process, almost like surgery without anesthesia, requiring brutal honesty with oneself, but it is absolutely necessary to devise an effective and sustainable recovery plan. Instead of hiding from the truth, Sarah needed a clear and brutally honest overview of her finances to then seek appropriate solutions, such as professional financial counseling or debt renegotiation with creditors, seeking more favorable terms. Only by seeing the exact size and depth of the hole she was in could she begin to climb out of it. The practical lesson here is simple, yet profoundly transformative. The first line of defense against bankruptcy is not a complex strategy or a miraculous investment, but rather deep and honest knowledge of your own financial situation, no matter how uncomfortable or painful that self-knowledge may be. Facing the truth is the first step to rewriting your financial story. It wasn't the first time she'd seen that message, but the panic she felt was different, sharper, more real, like a dark premonition of something rapidly approaching. For the past few months, Sarah had been struggling to maintain the appearance of a prosperous, enviable life, a dangerous game of illusion in which her credit card was her main and most treacherous accomplice. Her salary, which once seemed generous and allowed her a comfortable lifestyle in the elegant neighborhoods of Queen Anne, no longer covered the payments on her gleaming German luxury car, the exorbitant tuition fees for her children's private school, the most exclusive in the city, and the frequent designer purchases that filled her wardrobe. Many still with the original tags, a silent testament to unnecessary spending. She lived in a vicious, self-destructive cycle. Pay the minimum on her credit card on the last day, just to avoid default, and then almost automatically use it again to cover basic expenses like foods, groceries, and the utility bills that kept piling up. Each day, the stack of unpaid bills grew on the dining table in the kitchen, transforming a living space into a memorial to her growing debts. The stress was eroding not only her mental health, manifesting in insomnia and anxiety attacks that left her exhausted, but also her relationships, making her irritable, distant, and unable to truly connect with her husband and children. Sarah didn't realize, or refused to realize, the gravity of her situation. But she was on the brink of bankruptcy, one that manifests silently, eroding an individual's financial foundation before exploding in a devastating and public way. In the United States, credit card delinquency affects millions of families annually, being by far one of the main indicators of imminent financial problems and a gateway to ruin. According to a detailed report from Experian in 2023, an alarming 35% of Americans are unable to pay their credit card bills in full every month, and the average credit card debt per American consumer has exceeded $6,000. A worrying sign of the economic fragility of a significant portion of the population. The crucial point for Sarah was when she found herself performing complex and desperate financial juggling acts to pay essential bills. In Los Angeles, Michael, a talented 52-year-old graphic designer, found himself buried in debt that seemed to emerge from nowhere like a nightmare. After losing his job in unexpected restructuring at the large advertising agency where he had worked for nearly 2 decades. He always considered himself financially responsible, took pride in paying his bills on time, and even had a small but growing retirement savings in his 401. However, the absence of a robust emergency fund, which should have covered at least 6 months of basic expenses, and his almost total reliance on a single salary to support his family of 4, left him dangerously vulnerable when the financial earthquake struck his life without warning. His case is a classic and painful example of how unexpected but not uncommon life events, such as job loss, a serious illness, or divorce, can trigger a devastating financial crisis and a debt spiral, even for those who seem to have good habits and control over their finances. Personal finance experts in the United States are unanimous and emphatic. The lack of an emergency fund is one of the biggest and most treacherous causes of personal bankruptcy, a silent trap that patiently waits for any unforeseen event to swallow a family's savings. According to a recent survey by Bankrate in 2023, an alarming 44% of Americans do not have enough money to cover even 3 months of unexpected expenses, such as an abrupt layoff, an emergency surgery, or a costly urgent home repair, which leaves them at the mercy of luck and unpredictable events, without a cushion to soften the fall. Beyond the absence of financial reserves, other common and devastating causes of bankruptcy in the U.S. include high and unexpected medical expenses, even for those with health insurance, divorce, which can split a family's finances in half, and the excessive and uncontrolled use of credit, often to finance an unsustainable lifestyle. A comprehensive study by the Kaiser Family Foundation in 2022 revealed that medical debt is, shockingly, one of the primary reasons why Americans file for bankruptcy, even those with some form of health insurance, highlighting the gaps and high costs of the American healthcare system. In Michael's case, he tried to maintain his standard of living for a few months by using credit cards, with prohibitive interest rates and drawing on his home equity line of credit. What seemed like a temporary solution to buy time and avoid embarrassment quickly became an unsustainable burden, with interest accumulating at an alarming rate, like a snowball rolling down a mountain and gaining gigantic proportions. Debt management experts warn that using high-cost debt to cover current expenses is a clear, undeniable, and worrying sign that the financial situation is dangerously spiraling out of control. A crucial strategy for overcoming this, in a scenario of chaos and despair, is the creation of a detailed, rigorous, and unwavering budget. This involves listing all sources of income, no matter how small, and all expenses, mercilessly categorizing them into essential and non-essential. The goal is to surgically identify where money is being spent and, crucially, where it is possible to cut costs without compromising basic needs or family safety. Michael, with the help of a pro bono financial consultant he met through a community organization, had to drastically reduce his spending on leisure, dining out, and other discretionary expenses he once considered indispensable. Although painful and uncomfortable at first, This budgetary discipline was the first and most important step to regain control of his finances and, consequently, his life. The lesson is clear and universal. Prevention is always the best cure, and a robust emergency fund, combined with a well-planned and rigidly followed budget, are the unwavering pillars to prevent unforeseen events from turning into complete and irreversible financial ruin. Prepare for the unexpected, live below your means, and build your security step by step. Still in Los Angeles, Michael had plunged deep into the pit of debt, feeling the crushing weight of shame and despair. Calls from creditors became daily and relentless, turning every phone ring into a moment of terror, anxiety, and heart palpitations. The stress was constant, a heavy shadow that followed him through every room of his house, stealing his sleep and his peace of mind. He knew, deep in his soul, that he had to act, that he could no longer postpone finding a solution to this financial labyrinth. But the question that tormented him was where to even begin digging to climb out of such a deep and dark hole. The first step, and one of the hardest to take, was to admit his own vulnerability, acknowledge that he desperately needed help, and finally, seek professional support. Shame often acts as an insurmountable barrier, like an invisible wall, preventing people from seeking specialized financial counseling. But this is a powerful and often underestimated tool for recovery. In the United States, nonprofit organizations like the National Foundation for Credit Counseling offer free or low-cost credit counseling, helping individuals create realistic, sustainable, and personalized debt management plans. Michael, overcoming his wounded pride and the paralyzing fear of judgment, sought out one of these agencies. It was there that he learned about the vital importance of prioritizing his debts and attacking the problem strategically, not randomly, as he had been doing. The fundamental recovery strategy that Michael adopted, and which proved to be a turning point, was the debt snowball method, a technique popularized by financial expert Dave Ramsey and proven effective for those seeking motivation. This approach suggests starting by paying off the smallest debt first, regardless of its interest rate, while making minimum payments on other larger debts. Once the smallest debt is completely paid off, a small victory that becomes a great boost. The amount that was being paid on it is fully added to the payment of the next smallest debt, creating an increasingly larger and more powerful snowball effect. For Michael, this meant first focusing on a small personal loan he had taken out to cover an unexpected medical expense, then on a smaller Capital One credit card balance, and so on, building consecutive small victories that propelled him forward and gave him hope. The psychology behind this technique is the moral boost and sense of accomplishment that each paid-off debt provides, encouraging the person to stay firm on the plan, even when the path seems long and arduous. In Michael's case, he also had the courage to negotiate directly with some creditors, explaining his situation and seeking more favorable terms. He managed, in some cases, to reduce interest rates and, in others, even have part of the debt forgiven in exchange for an immediate payment of a percentage of the total amount owed. While this isn't always an available option, negotiation is a valid tool that can significantly lighten the debt burden, especially if you show proactivity. Recent data from the Federal Reserve demonstrates the severity of the situation. Credit card debt in the country reached an all-time high of $1.13 trillion in the first quarter of 2024, an increase of 14.5% year-over-year, underscoring the urgency and need for effective debt repayment strategies. Michael, by following a rigorous plan, seeking support, and acting proactively, managed to climb out of a financial hole that seemed insurmountable. The practical conclusion is that financial recovery requires unwavering discipline, a clear and well-defined plan, and the courage to ask for help when needed. There are no magic shortcuts or quick fixes for deep debt, but with the right strategies, such as the debt snowball, conscious negotiation, and professional assistance, it is absolutely possible to reverse the situation and regain much desired financial health and peace of mind. Your journey to financial freedom begins with a single step of courage and planning. In Dallas, Texas, Emily, a bright 24-year-old UX design graduate, was just starting her career with a promising salary at a tech startup in the heart of the Innovation District. She had a good job and a modern apartment downtown, but like many young adults seduced by consumerism, she fell into common financial traps that pulled her away from her long-term goals. Her apartment was filled with items she barely used: designer clothes bought on impulse from sites like Shein and Zara, the latest electronic gadgets that ended up forgotten in a drawer, and the sophisticated coffee machine that promised a gourmet experience at home but merely collected dust. All these purchases were made during flash sales online or under the subtle yet powerful influence of digital influencers who dictated incessant consumption trends. She was accumulating small debts on various credit cards, one from Chase, another from American Express, and most worryingly, she had no idea where her money was actually going each month. Emily's story is a vivid and crucial reminder that financial education is not just a tool for those already in crisis or for those seeking retirement, but rather an essential foundation for everyone who wants to build a secure and prosperous financial future right from the start of adulthood. In the United States, the lack of financial education is a widespread and persistent problem. A 2023 survey by the National Financial Educators Council revealed that only 57% of American adults consider themselves financially literate, an alarming statistic that demonstrates a fundamental knowledge gap. One of the most common and, ironically, most expensive mistakes that people like Emily make is uncontrolled, impulsive spending and the complete lack of a personal budget. Many, like Emily, fall into the trap of living paycheck to paycheck, without any planning for the near or distant future, or for life's inevitable contingencies. For Emily, the solution began with a simple but surprisingly effective method: the 50-30-20th budget rule. This rule suggests that 50% of your net income should be allocated to essential needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. By applying this rule with discipline and rigor, Emily was able to visualize where her money was truly going and, more importantly, where she could redirect it more efficiently and intelligently towards her long-term financial goals, such as buying a home or starting her own business in a few years. She also began using intuitive financial tracking apps like Mint or YNB to record every single expense, no matter how small, which helped her identify harmful spending patterns and drastically reduce her impulse purchases. Another common mistake that financial education helps combat is the lack of investment diversification and the absence of a well-defined retirement plan. Many rely solely on Social Security or a single type of investment, which leaves them dangerously vulnerable to market fluctuations and economic crises. The practical conclusion is that financial education is a powerful and transformative tool for preventing common mistakes, building a solid foundation for the future, and achieving true financial freedom. It's not just about knowing how to invest in stocks or cryptocurrencies, but about understanding the psychology of money, the principles of compound interest, and the importance of discipline, patience, and consistency. With in-depth knowledge and intelligent, well-executed financial planning, it is absolutely possible to avoid financial traps, build wealth, and live with more security, tranquility, and freedom. Invest in your financial knowledge. It is the most valuable asset you can possess. In Austin, Texas, David, a 45-year-old university professor with a consolidated academic career, realized that his salary, while stable and sufficient for daily expenses, he began giving advanced private lessons to university students and offering online consulting to small businesses in the research and development sector using freelance platforms that connect professionals with specific projects. These activities not only significantly supplemented his main income, but also kept him engaged, expanded his network, and provided a sense of purpose and value beyond the classroom. The key here is to identify talents, knowledge, or even passions that can be ethically monetized, whether through direct service provision, the creation of digital products, or participation in the sharing economy. In the investment sphere, David, after thorough research and seeking advice from a certified financial planner, opted for a diversified, long-term approach focused on consistent wealth building. He started by investing in ETFs, which offer instant diversification across various companies and sectors with a single purchase, reducing risk and simplifying the investment process for those who don't have time to analyze individual stocks. Additionally, he allocated a significant portion of his resources to a 401 retirement plan offered by his university, taking full advantage of the employer's match contribution, which is essentially free money for his retirement. He also cautiously explored, after much research, low-risk rental property investments in emerging markets within the U.S., using the house hacking strategy, where one rents out part of their own residence to cover a portion of the mortgage costs, transforming the property into an income-generating asset. Federal Reserve data indicates that the stock market has historically been one of the largest generators of long-term wealth for patient and disciplined Americans, with significant average annual returns over decades. However, experts emphasize the importance of starting early, even with small amounts, of diversifying your investments to reduce risks, and of thoroughly understanding the risk profile of each investment before allocating capital. The practical conclusion is that extra income and smart investments are fundamental pillars for accelerating financial growth, achieving economic freedom, and realizing goals that once seemed distant or unattainable. It's not about getting rich overnight with convoluted schemes or high-risk investments, but about building a diversified and consistent portfolio over time, leveraging the power of compound interest and market growth. With discipline, research, patience, and a healthy dose of proactivity, anyone can seize market opportunities to strengthen their financial position and build a more prosperous and secure future. Your time and skills are valuable assets. Learn to monetize them and make them work for you. Was not enough to achieve his ambitious long-term financial goals, ensuring his two children attended top universities like Austin and enjoying a comfortable, worry-free retirement, perhaps even with the possibility of traveling the world. He wasn't in a financial crisis. He didn't have crushing debts, but he was proactively seeking ways to accelerate his financial progress and build a more robust net worth that would allow him greater flexibility and security in the future. The pursuit of extra income and smart investments became his main focus, an increasingly common and necessary strategy among Americans who want to go beyond the basics. In the United States, the trend of multiple income streams, or side hustles, has grown exponentially in recent years, driven by the desire for greater financial security, freedom, and the ability to realize bigger dreams. A 2023 Zapier survey revealed that over 45% of Americans have some form of extra income, ranging from online freelance work on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, to selling handmade or digital products on marketplaces like Etsy. For David, the first strategy was to leverage his academic skills and knowledge to generate flexible extra income that complemented his main job. In Denver, Colorado, Lavra, a successful 55-year-old entrepreneur in the competitive tech sector, had overcome a devastating financial crisis in her youth, an experience that profoundly marked her and taught her invaluable lessons about resilience and planning. Since then, she had rigorously and intelligently dedicated herself to building and, more importantly, maintaining a financially secure and prosperous life. Her biggest concern now was no longer about getting out of the red. but rather about ensuring that her hard-earned gains wouldn't be eroded by old habits, persistent inflation, or unexpected events that might appear on the horizon. She knew, from personal experience, that financial security was not a final destination to be reached and then forgotten, like buried treasure, but rather an ongoing journey that required constant vigilance, adaptation, and an unwavering commitment to discipline. Laura's story highlights the importance of continuous maintenance and periodic financial review, even after achieving that much-desired stability and abundance. Statistics from the National Association of Financial Educators in the U.S. show that continuous discipline and regular budget review are absolutely crucial for the longevity and financial resilience of any individual or family. One of the main strategies Laura adopted, which set her apart from many who fall into the trap of complacency, was the automation of her savings and investments. Monthly, on the exact day of her paycheck, a predetermined percentage of her income was automatically transferred to her savings and investment accounts before she could even see it or be tempted to spend it. This habit, known as pay yourself first, removes the need for daily willpower and ensures that saving is a non-negotiable priority in her financial planning, almost like a bill to be paid to her future self. Additionally, Laura meticulously reviewed her budget and financial goals every 6 months, like a sacred ritual, adjusting them as her life needs changed and the overall economic landscape shifted. She also strategically invested in adequate and comprehensive insurance to protect her assets and her family against life's inevitable risks and unforeseen circumstances, a vital recommendation from any sensible financial planner. In 2023, the average cost of health insurance in the U.S. continued to rise, but the protection it offers against catastrophic medical expenses can be the difference between a family's stability and bankruptcy. Laura's strategy also included asset diversification to mitigate risks, not putting all her eggs in one basket and spreading her investments across different asset classes, and a well-structured estate plan with a will and trusts to ensure her family was protected and her wishes were carried out in the future with minimal bureaucracy. The practical conclusion is that long-term financial security is built through consistent habits, proactive planning, and the crucial ability to adapt to new realities and challenges. It's not enough to just climb out of the debt hole. You need to build a solid and resilient bridge to the future, protecting what you've gained and seeking continuous growth intelligently and disciplinedly. The journey is constant, requiring vigilance and continuous learning, but the rewards are invaluable: peace of mind, the freedom to live life on your own terms, and the ability to leave a lasting legacy for future generations. Build a financial shield and live with the tranquility that security provides.